And now I am happy to welcome once again a very good friend of our cause, which is getting the truth out there and just letting everybody know what color the cow is and where it went over the fence. And that would be Craig Hulet. He's been both a speechwriter and special assistant for special projects to Congressman Jack Metcalf, retired. He's been a consultant to federal law enforcement agencies, BATF and E, Justice Department, Homeland Security for over 25 years. He's written 4 books on international relations and philosophy, and his latest is The Hydra of Carnage, Bush's Imperial War Making and the Rule of Law, an analysis of the objectives and delusions of the empire. Craig, my friend, welcome back on a different show, but same story, and it's a good story.
Different show, same story. Very well put.
Well, I was only able to speak with you an hour last week, and that was just not enough. And when Alex said, "Hey, will you do this?" It's like, yeah, absolutely. He goes, get anybody on there you want. I'm like, oh, I definitely want Craig Hulet. So here you are. I'm not sure people are aware how far down the road their privacy is gone. Maybe you could just bring them up to speed on that quickly. The NSA is lying. The U.S. government has copies of most of your emails, every fax, every landline, everything, every keystroke. It's all up there in Utah, I guess.
Yes, and it's gone to the point now where I have to admit for the first time in 30 years of doing this work publicly that at this point there really isn't a whole lot the American people could do about it. It's gone to such a degree that the courts, the legislation that's being passed, violating our civil liberties, is so pervasive now that it would take a complete overturning of the federal judiciary and both House and Senate to rectify it. I don't see anything like that happening in my lifetime. But yes, every email, everything that you say and do right on the Internet, even landline, GPS, cell phones, NSA now has a copy of it. They have been copying it, downloading it for years. Finally, William Biney, one of the newest whistleblowers that the government is actively pursuing, trying to indict, has been interviewed a number of times in different places around the country, and he's made it very clear that the NSA is in fact lying when they say that they're not eavesdropping, and the degree to it, through the Freedom of Information Act, what's been revealed just in the last few weeks is just absolutely devastating. If you so much as use words like aid, relief, recruitment, disaster, snow, my favorite one is pork,
right,
in an email or on a cell phone, those words trigger further investigation into your phone conversations, emails, your Internet activity. And this has been going on for quite some time. This is actually a Homeland Security list that's in a binder that analysts are given that pursue this kind of eavesdropping on the American people. So this is a legitimate list. And in fact, I've had 2 experiences myself with emails that I send out to my client base where I've used a few words on 2 different occasions, and it has completely shut down my email and my website. Everything gets shut down. And I have to go to the server, and they have to issue what is called a false positive with a certain coded number. And they have to go in and actually reset up my entire system and allow me back online, able to send emails. So I use these kinds of words all the time, but unfortunately, as well do you in your work. So, So basically what this amounts to is these words are part of a new definition of what constitutes a potential threat to the government, not just terrorism, but any kind of militant or organized threat to the government, domestic or foreign. And the definition is now so broad that it basically charges everybody in America with being suspicious before the fact. And then afterwards, if they decide they want to investigate you under the new CISPA, House-passed CISPA, they can actually issue a memorandum from the White House or Homeland Security demanding that I, for instance, turn over information John Wells or anybody else that I've been told to do so, or I'll be prosecuted. So this is being done completely in the dark and in secret, and it's happening on an ongoing basis. And basically, as it stands today, according to Glenn Greenwald, there's nothing we can do about it.
Nothing we can do about it.
Nothing we can do about it. He's a lawyer. He's well educated. He's got a number of journalistic awards and legal awards. He now writes for Salon.com. And I don't think he's kidding one bit when he says, we're past it. The judiciary has been completely deconstructed. It's obedient now to the executive branch, the White House, and Homeland Security. If they charge you as a terrorist, you're going to be convicted. It's where we've gotten to. It's taken a long time to get here. I know there's a lot of people that see almost everything the government does conspiratorially. I don't always look at it that way,
right?
Because I've been too close to it. Maybe I am too close to it. But I see it as an evolution because I've never believed government to be anything but a threat to its citizens.
Yes.
Government has always seen its citizenry as its number one threat. Not a foreign threat, not a foreign army, its own people. Government has always been like this.
I don't really know where to take this, Craig, because I have to say that I agree with you. I mean, I could just say, Craig, I agree with everything you're saying, and then just sort of fold my hands together and just kind of dwell on it for a while. But there must be something that can be done. But you're saying we would have to completely overturn the current judiciary and both houses of Congress before anything like that would even come close.
That's
and you saw what happened
in the midst of all of this, John. I mentioned this on your show and a few others. They're changing how this country functions,
yes,
specifically in the media, journalism, and the information is not getting into the people's hands. But while all of our protesting is going on, both houses of Congress passed unanimously H.R. 347. It's the Federal Restricted Buildings and Grounds Improvement Act of 2011. It was passed unanimously with only Ron Paul and two other Republicans voted against it. And it basically says the Secret Service can declare any area a restricted area, whether it's a NATO meeting, which is why several people were arrested. During Memorial Day, 35,000 people were arrested. But now, if they're protesting in what the Secret Service declares as a restricted area, it constitutes now a felony.
Yeah, it's a federal charge.
5 years in prison.
Yeah, it's a federal charge, even if you beat it. That's the thing about federal charges. You don't have to be guilty. It'll cost you everything you have just to defend yourself against it.
Correct. And again, once you've got a charge like that on your record, it makes it much easier for them to pursue you in other areas of the law. And basically, if you get a felony count against you, you can't vote, you can't own a gun. Your life is ruined. But more than that, is, a number of things have happened just in the past year that I felt were the biggest news stories I've ever seen in my entire life. And I have PDF files of 500 pages in size that proves that these things are accurate and true. Namely, the first one is Lloyd's of London filed a lawsuit against the Saudi regime for its involvement in 9/11. You go through the case file, which it was immediately settled out of court, so it disappeared from the media, but the story is so clear that Saudi Arabia was behind 9/11 that it can't really be disputed any longer. Yet this story has no interest in our media's mind. The second one, $29 trillion, it's now $35 trillion, has been created out of thin air. That's twice the gross domestic product of America. $29 trillion created out of thin air over a 5-year period of time, lent out to institutions that were not in trouble. This isn't the TARP money. These are secret loans from the Federal Reserve directly to private corporations like Google and banks like the Bank of London, Saudi banks, British banks. Make a list. The list is absolutely so large, I can't even email the list to my client base. I have to put it on a website somewhere. The third thing, dereliction of duty paper, classified document went to the Senate Armed Forces Committee, charging General Petraeus with dereliction of duty and demanding that he be held accountable and court-martialed for lying to the President, the White House, and the American people about Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's not going as well as reported, is it?
No, we're in fact losing the war in a drastic sense. We are being absolutely slaughtered over there. We are losing ground. Pakistan has cut off logistics. This Lieutenant Colonel Davis, that submitted this report, spent 2 years on the ground interviewing everybody from generals to majors to privates. 2 years, 9,000 miles was put on his Humvee. And he comes back with this blistering account that says, we're losing and we need to get the hell out of Afghanistan. And again, not a peep in the media.
Right.
Nowhere do we hear this $29 trillion stolen from the American people and handed out to the richest people in the world. Nowhere do we hear that we've been lied to about Afghanistan, and the Saudi involvement in 9/11 is now without question.
We'll be back with Craig Hulet on the Alex Jones Show. Please stay with us just a while longer.
For more than 6 years, I've talked on the air about creating a social network. PlanetInfoWars.com is in its beta phase. We're just launching it, and I want to invite all of you out there to be in on the ground level. Planet InfoWars is about people coming together, forming activist organizations, getting involved politically, hunting and fishing, gardening, dating. This is a place for people who love freedom to meet and to talk and to write and to post information. And I give you this pledge. We are not going to spy on you and sell your data to the New World Order. PlanetInfoWars.com is free, so people who love freedom can get together, connect with people who are awake and know what we're facing. Be active, organize, take action, go viral, create, contribute, resist, because resistance is victory. You are victory. It's waiting for you to breathe power into it. PlanetInfoWars.com.
We have a friendship and an understanding with Alex now for many years. He and George Norrie go back 9 years, something, and Alex and I go back, not quite a year, because, I was the Saturday Night Guy before 2012, and what a year to come on board that particular outfit. I like to call it the mothership. But anyway, last Saturday night, I was pleased to have Craig Hulet on the program, and we have him now for you. So I think I'll just let him tell us some more about how we're not being nurtured and cared for, and we're being yanked around and fed full of disinformation and anything bad that's going on. We're not being informed of it, and there are no plans to deviate from this path indicated in any way, shape, or form. Am I close here, Craig?
You're right on the money, unfortunately, and it is always about money. And buried into high-profile issues of our new defense bill, $642 billion defense bill, is a little tweak in the bill that will essentially neutralize two previous laws, the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, the Foreign Relations Authorization Act of 1987. Now, most people never going to hear about this. But what it'll do, and this is further proof that our government sees you and I, the citizenry of America, as the true enemy of the state. It's not foreign terrorism. It's not Russia or China. Hell, China has just been authorized by the Federal Reserve to begin buying up U.S. privately owned banks. So China is now going to own a number of our privately owned commercial banking operations. So hardly is China one of our enemies. It's clear we are, because when they tweak this defense bill and they get rid of these two laws that have been in place since 1948, all that effort in propaganda and misinformation through the State Department, the CIA, and the Pentagon has always been directed at foreign governments and foreign nationals will now be authorized to be turned loose on the American people. That will become the law of the land. Not only will we be lied to by omission, not telling us that the Saudis were involved in 9/11, not telling us that Petraeus lied about Afghanistan, not being told about the $29, now $35 trillion in U.S. taxpayers' money given away freely in loans for 5 years to anyone and everyone throughout the world. Not only will we not be told about those things still, we are now going to be lied to in every way, shape, and form to convince us, like we've tried to convince other countries, nations, and people, that our government is perfect, pristine, we don't torture, we don't kill, when in fact we torture and we do kill. And Obama, by the way, the title of my book, I didn't change it as it stays in print. It was Bush's war-making and the rule of law, but it also is Obama's war-making, because Obama has far outstripped Bush Jr. in violating international law, the rules of war, and, of course, here domestically. Obama has gone so far past Bush as to make Bush look like one of the better presidents in our history. I thought I'd never said that.
We're going to have to take another look. Isn't that amazing? And you know, it's funny, on our last chat, it's like, you're bashing Obama, or you're bashing, like, listen, we're bashing them all. Don't you get it? We're bashing them all. The whole thing is almost rotten to the core. And look at that mess that happened down there in Louisiana with the Ron Paul delegates. You ever seen such a thing? Never saw anything like that since the 30s on an old newsreel or something.
I know, it's getting hideous.
It's just unbelievable. What's the best website for people to follow you on?
CraigBHulet.com. And if they take the trouble to use the email address on Craig B. Hulet, it's H-U-L-E-T, by the way.
Yep.
Not Hewlett-Packard.
Right.
Sad to say, I don't have that kind of money. But
no.
CraigBHulet.com, there's an email. You can email me, and if you just mention that you heard me on this show, I will be more than happy to send you any one of these PDF files on the Saudis' involvement in 9/11. It's 500 pages, so you better be able to have the capacity.
All right.
But I'll email it to you for free.
All right. We got lots of breaks, brother, but we'll be back. We got another half an hour or so, or the greater part of it. This is Craig Hulet, and you're listening to him on the Alex Jones Show. John Wells sitting in with you. And please go to CraigBHulet.com, and I'll give you a recap on all of the good websites to go to, including my own, CaravanToMidnight.com. You may find something on these sites that you can use. We shall return. This is the Alex Jones Show. John B. Wells sitting in for, and a while ago, with Alex, and we are currently talking with Craig B. Hulet. CraigBHulet.com, C-R-A-I-G, B as in Bravo, H-U-L-E-T.com. He's been paying attention to what we now call, or refer to generally as, the encroachment of the New World Order and the agenda that goes along with it for many years now. And somehow or another, we just wind up on the air together, frequently, with increasing frequency, because he's sort of like I am. He's a little bit grumpy about this. He doesn't like it, and we're going to continue to talk about it until at least we've satisfied ourselves and we've told as many people as we possibly can, and then after that, it's pretty much up to them. And I suppose that starts with the politicians, but Craig, how many years would it take to undo this? You know, unless we have divine intervention of some sort. I mean, it doesn't look good, man. It just really doesn't.
I would put it at 3 generations. I think the generation down the road, some that gets born into the country that we leave behind. By the way, I still believe that our World War II generation was the finest generation America ever produced.
I do too.
And if you don't believe it, watch Ken Burns' documentary, and you'll be a true believer after you watch it. But, you know, I lost basically my entire adult family on both sides, the male side, anyways. Everybody volunteered, and almost everybody died. And I still think it's the greatest generation. But what we've done since is we've left behind a country that no longer resembles anything like what the Founding Fathers or the World War II veterans left behind. And I fear it'll take a generation, our great-great-grandchildren, to grow up in this miasma. And maybe they'll do something about it.
Well, maybe they will, because certainly they'll be, if we're sick of it already, imagine how much sicker they'll be of it by the time they're able to take an initiative.
Well, I wonder how sick of it we really are. You know, we've got a president now that openly admits, and has to admit, because of WikiLeaks and Anonymous and the back doors left open in the Pentagon, the CIA websites by intel experts that resigned under Bush. They were so sick of it, 100 top CIA analysts resigned under Bush Jr. because they wouldn't lie about Iraq and Afghanistan and 9/11. And many of them left back doors open into the system so that WikiLeaks could actually be created out of thin air. This isn't an accident that WikiLeaks came along. And it's not hackers. The hackers are getting the raw data, but the back doors that have been left open were left by our own people in the CIA and NSA that wanted the American people to know what WikiLeaks is now able to tell us. But we're not doing anything with the information. In fact, WikiLeaks isn't even part of the news any longer.
Isn't that the truth?
And it's not confusing to me any longer. I've always felt that the country was evolving in this direction, whether we liked it or not, whether there's a conspiracy or not. It doesn't make any difference. The fact of the matter is, the country's history, it's no longer anything like what it ought to be or should have been. And I do oughts. I've written 2 philosophy books. I do ought, but I don't think what I think ought to be is the way it's going to be.
Right.
The truth of the matter is I'm a praxeologist. If A and B lined up, I know that C is going to take place.
Oh, yes.
A and B is lined up, and C is taking place, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it at this point. Look at Ron Paul. I've known Ron since he was a young man. Him and I started out together in Houston. He's the first person I ever gave a nickel to when he was a congressman, when I had my company in Houston.
Yeah.
And look at where we're at today. Back in the day, Ron Paul and I used to do lectures, and we would end up on the same dais, the same platform. He'd speak first, I'd speak second, Tony Sutton third, or Jim Garrison of JFK fame.
Oh, yes.
So we were all colleagues. Bob Brown, Soldier Fortune magazine, Tony Sutton.
Wow.
But we're all old and we're all dying, and pretty soon I'm not going to have any colleagues left. And I don't see anybody replacing the Tony Suttons and the Ron Paul.
Well, I don't either. And when you see Ron Paul and his delegates being treated with such abject disrespect, how dirty does that tell you that the Republican Party is, just as much as we think the Democrats are? They're all equally dirty. That's been a long-standing
argument of mine, and Ron Paul, too, by the way. I don't know if most people don't know this, but Ron quit with a devastating letter published in the Congressional Record as a Republican congressman, became a libertarian, ran for president. And I thought that's exactly what I thought Ron Paul would do one day, and then he did it. Then it proved to be totally pointless because the American people will never accept a third-party candidate unless he's a billionaire.
Right.
And, of course, that billionaire was a liar from the get-go. He had no intention of being president. He just wanted to hurt Bush because it was an old Texas fight.
Yep.
Ross Perot was going to pay his payback for Bush Sr.
Yeah, he had no intention of being president. He just wanted to hand it to. He just wanted to divide the party.
Dropping out of the race.
That's it.
And he made sure that he lost.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have split the vote, could have gone to the House and the Senate. But then, see, we would have then looked at a third party legitimately, and he wasn't about to upset the T cart that he belongs to, General Motors.
Right.
Board of directors.
Hey, going back to this 9/11 thing, what was, in your opinion, what was the reason that the Saudis were involved at all?
Well, I think it's clear. I believed there was a nation-state involvement from day one. In fact, that's what blew me off the Jim Bohannon show. I was the first guest interviewed on the 22nd of September, right after George Bush Jr. gave his speech on Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And I was on the air within 3 minutes. I was on the air live in Washington, D.C. with Jim Bohannon. I was a regular for a decade. And I said that Al-Qaeda didn't do it. It was nonsense. Bin Laden didn't do it. It was nonsense. And there was nation-state involvement. There had to be.
Yep.
And, of course, that cost me a number of hosts throughout the nation, including Jim Bohannon.
Right.
But it's turned out that, there's no question Saudi Arabia was involved now. But the reason is simple. They knew Bin Laden would be blamed, and they knew Saddam Hussein would be taken out. Two of the Saudis' biggest enemies, Bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, would be taken out.
It seems to me that what we're being... Good grief, man. Okay, so the Saudis decided to use us, and now the NWO, or whatever you want to call them, that we have now built this country, gone to the moon, made ships that go into the ocean, basically came out of the cave and made steel. And now they're just going to take it apart and I suppose just distribute the spoils. And America just gets absorbed into this global Borg of surveillance, control, taxation, and basically slavery.
Well, it actually has a name. There's a legitimate name to this. I know we call it the New World Order. Even Bush Sr. had the audacity to use the terminology.
100 and something times.
Yeah, no, that was Iraq War I. So, but it's a valid euphemism, but its actual system is referred to as an acephalous organ, meaning a headless organ. And all these different institutions that were quietly being created, from Bretton Woods to the World Bank to NATO, and ultimately there will be a global central Federal Reserve Bank. This is all mapped out. It's all plain as day. You can buy volumes and volumes of academic literature on the subject. It's discussed relentlessly in academia. But if you or I say it in the public sphere, we're labeled conspiracy theorists, crackpots, right-wingers, communists, fascists.
Oh, absolutely.
Jews. I don't know. You'll be called everything in the book sooner or later. I have.
Me too.
Everything.
I kind of like it. It means I'm getting somebody's attention when they start hurling slurs and names at me. I like it. Probably one of the few. Well,
but it is a viable argument. We are being absorbed into a geopolitical, global economic system that has no relationship or obedience to nation-state sovereignty. That's just the facts of the matter, and it cannot be any longer disputed. But what will happen here in America? Everybody says they're killing the golden goose. No, they're not. It depends on who you're talking about.
Right.
Who are we talking about when we say they are destroying this nation? No, they're not. They're making their world. They couldn't be happier. The new Wild West is China, Asia, the Middle East. Those people don't have cars and refrigerators.
But soon they will.
But soon they will. That's where all the money is going. That's why they're not. After $29 trillion has been doled out to the largest, wealthiest banks, American banks, since world history, more wealth is accumulated than Solomon, for heaven's sakes, and yet not a dime is being loaned back to the American people. Well, there's a reason.
Yes.
This doesn't happen in a vacuum. Nothing happens in government by accident. Nothing. FDR said that, not just Craig Hulet.
How long can this be sustained, Craig?
Forever.
Oh, Lord, I was afraid you were going to... Okay, let me fire another one out. Here comes the shotgun out the back door deal. Why are we dealing with the... we have a new stealth ship now. It's probably been around for a while because we're just now seeing it. That's supposedly able to operate better than big boats in littoral conflicts, meaning shallow water conflicts. And the Chinese are going, no, we could just swarm it with a bunch of little boats and blow it up. Sooner or later it'd be a goner. It's like, why are we doing so much business with these people in between saber-rattling sessions with each other? I don't understand this love-hate relationship with them. Everything is being built over there. I mean, did these guys build a gigantic underground base and just go, we're going to be friends or we launch on you. We don't care if we lose 1 billion people. You lose everything. You lose everything.
Well, there's a very simple and mundane answer to this.
Okay.
And Tony Sutton is my mentor. Tony and I became very fast friends many, many decades ago. Tony's no longer with us, but he wrote a 3-volume work that netted him 2 PhDs called Western Technology and Soviet Economic Development. Let me say that again. Western Technology and Soviet Economic Development.
Wow.
And he proved in the 3 volumes, each volume probably 400 pages, all of it was technical study, extremely technical. But he proved without question that Western technology built the Soviet Union from the ground up. The largest Ford Motor plant was built in 1926 in Russia by Ford Motor.
Wow.
And we have never not done business with the Soviet Union when it was at the height of the Cold War. In fact, Tony and I assembled a document proving that our shuttle was an exact duplicate of the Russian shuttle. Both
I thought it was the other way around.
Bolt by bolt. Nut and bolt. In other words, they can be swapped out in space.
Well,
one
it's
for
true.
the other.
Do you know it's true? A bunch of us bought a bunch of these old Russian jets off the Bulgarian flight line a few years ago, several years ago, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, this sure looks like our stuff. And this guy said, it is our stuff. There wasn't a metric bolt on it.
And they didn't steal it.
No.
It was transferred to them openly and willingly. It's called the Trading with the Enemy Act. We did it with Hitler's Germany. We did it with the Soviets. We will do it with China because there is so much more money in the war-making end of nation-state bargaining and corporate global activities than in any other area, except, of course, banking. That's why China is now allowed to come in and buy U.S. banks here on domestic American soil. Chinese central communist state-controlled banks can now own U.S. private banks. This is the problem. We're talking about a multinational corporation that has no allegiance to any nation-state whatsoever.
Yeah.
So an American starts a corporation, goes multinational. He has French, German, and Chinese on his board of directors. 30% of that corporation is owned by banking interests, both sides of the Atlantic and Pacific. These corporations are the ruling elite. There is no nation-state left. The nation-state is nothing but one side of a simple coin of multinational banking and corporate interest. You and I work for them, and our government works for them. There is no them and us, government and us. We are simply the serfs, and the governing bodies that rule over us are simply the merchants of death that are employed by the corporate structure to achieve whatever objectives they want in whatever country they desire, including on our own domestic soil. You and I are the enemy.
This is the most rational explanation as to what exactly is going on around here that I think I've ever heard. I don't believe.
I've been accused of that.
Well, I mean, that is the most intelligible explanation I've ever heard, and I've asked the question many times. What's going on here? It's what it boils down to. But that's it. So that doesn't go just for us. That's everybody.
No, it's everybody.
That's no England. There's no England, no China, no nothing. It's just
nothing. No,
okay.
there's just the largest multinational corporations. Many of them, if not the largest percentage, are American corporations. Of the 100 largest economies in the world, the 100 largest economies in the world, America's economy being the largest, 51 are corporations. They're not even countries. They're corporations. Walmart is larger than any other country, period, except the United States and Great Britain. I don't think anybody in America realizes that these corporations hate competition. They hate free enterprise. They want nothing to do with competition or Adam Smith or free enterprise. The progressive left is wrong. Noam Chomsky, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You want to know why I know these things, why I've come to this as an analyst? Who do you think I am? I was one of those capitalist pigs. My clients, before I went public with this information, were GE, Exxon, U.S. Home, Weyerhaeuser. When I left the corporate world and went into the political world, I discovered very quickly that they're the same place, by name. Where do you think these congressmen and senators, defense secretaries and undersecretaries of state end up when they leave the government service? They end up at the multinational corporate structure doing business with China, the Soviet Union, Guatemala. The drug war is a joke. There's more money in pharmaceuticals than in drugs. Without the pharmaceuticals, there'd be no cocaine.
Oh, that's for sure.
Profit. Eli Lilly.
Oh, Craig, I'll tell you, it's something else. That's just absolutely beyond anything I've ever even imagined. But it reminds me of that old movie with James Caan in it back in the 70s called Rollerball, where they would say, "And now our corporate anthem." I suppose that's where we are now, isn't it?
Yes. I used to use the analogy of Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
There's no getting past it. There's no getting around it. There's no fixing it. There's no stopping it. There's no changing it. All I do now is attempt to inform those who are willing to listen.
Gotcha.
And if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative and you're fixed in your ideology, I can't help you.
Hang on. Hang on, Craig. We'll be back. This is the Alex Jones Show. We shall return.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
John B. Wells sitting in with you, the Saturday night man for Coast to Coast AM. And we are just continuing to develop our relationship as we share information and release it to you. And we are presently speaking with Craig Hulet, who was on Coast last Saturday and on Alex Jones's show today. And I'll tell you, I am just about to, I don't know, I'm thinking about, I was going to say I'm thinking about going out to L.A. and just jump off the Hollywood sign, but that's not really me. Besides, I'm not suicidal, so if all of a sudden I drop off the scope, you'll know it was the New World Order, man, because I'm not doing it to myself. Hey, speaking of jumping off the Hollywood sign and vanishing otherwise, so standing around a terrorist now with all these armed drones that are going to be flying around soon, they're already flying, they're going to be more flying. Standing near a somebody labeled as a terrorist makes you a terrorist, and you may wind up getting whacked out by the drone as well, with, of course, no recourse whatsoever.
That's correct. And using a secret kill order, I love the terminology. It's not even Orwellian any longer. Obama has what are called secret kill orders, and there's even a 17-year-old girl listed on one of his kill orders, as WikiLeaks so proved. But let me close by saying something, because this is a new show I've never done before, and you and I are just getting to know each other. The reason I haven't changed the title of my book, The Hydra of Carnage, Bush's Imperial War Making, is because in about 5 years, the title will still be accurate.
Yeah.
It will be Bush's Imperial War Making still, but it'll be Jeb Bush. He will be the president 5 years from now.
You think?
Obama will get reelected, and Obama will do everything that the Bushes would wish him to do, and the individuals, call them the elite, would tell him to do. He's merely finishing up what George Bush Jr. started, which Clinton started, which Reagan, Nixon, Ford started. So, you know, we're not really going to see a change in policy. Continuity of government is the sole purpose of the two parties. Get rid of one, throw the dogs out, put another guy in, but
Sure.
Nothing ever changes.
Right.
This is the doctrine of continuity of government, according to our own government.
Right.
Jeb Bush is slated to be the president after Obama, because Obama will be blamed for everything that the Bushes had a hand in doing, but everybody will be ready then for another Bush, and we will blindly go to the polls. The media will obediently find Jeb Bush attractive, and Jeb Bush will be the president of the United States. Craig's book, subtitle, will remain the same.
That's because you're a visionary, Craig B. Hulet. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and we will be talking again in the future. Thanks for taking some time out of the middle of the day to be with us here on the Alex Jones Show, and we'll speak to you again. You'll either speak with Alex again on the Alex Jones Show, or you can speak with me on Coast to Coast AM sometime.
Anytime.
Well, I appreciate it, Craig. Check your six, pal, and stay healthy. All right, just some information. We spoke in the first hour with Dr. Teresa Dale. Her website is naturalhealingpro.com, and you'll find products that will help you defend yourself against the effects of the radiation that is, in fact, spreading from the Fukushima's failed reactors, and there are meltdowns there. It is happening. It's not being reported, but it's happening, so take steps to protect yourself. Also, InfoWars store, InfoWars shop, they have some products to help you defend yourself. Craig B. Hulet, HULET.com. You can find his books, keep up with the latest intel, and come and see me and mine on caravantomidnight.com. There's some Geiger counters, 3 different kinds. They're inexpensive, and it's one of those things where better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. It's been a delight to be in with you today, and I wish you the very best in the future. Check your six means watch your backs. Do that. Till next time, be well.